Well, thank you for coming to Fergus Falls Refresh. I'm Dave Bishop from Newstalk 1250 KBRF and also a member of the Fergus Falls Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. And thank you for coming. And we'll start things off with Mayor Ben Shire.
I'm not as tall as him, and I don't have the same voice as him. Yeah, thanks, Dave. So they told me it's my job to officially welcome everyone, so you are all hereby officially welcome to this event. And it's been a couple of years since this group has got together to recognize the businesses in Fergus Falls, and so I'm glad to be with you here to do that this afternoon. But I want to recognize the work over those years that's gone on. There's been some challenging times, but the work that the Chamber has done during the past couple of years on behalf of the businesses in this community, advocating for, recognizing, and most importantly, supporting those businesses has been something that I can say as a business owner has been truly appreciated. So Lisa, your staff, Board of Directors, thanks for all you do for the community. And as we recognize all the businesses and what they do for our community and the collaborations, the different groups, we're going to hear from some great speakers. There's a lot of collaborations in this community, and it makes me proud to be the mayor of a community that has so many different groups, individuals, businesses working towards a common goal of making the community the best it can be for all of our residents. So I want to say thank you to all of you for all of you do in that regard. I think it's also important that we recognize the challenges that we face right now. As a world, as a nation, as a community, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of fear, and quite honestly, there's a lot of anger out there. And I think that how we react to that, the work we do as a community, is so important. And it's real. It affects me, it affects our families, it affects our businesses, and it affects our community in a way that, in my time as mayor, has never been. I've been in public office for a long time, longer than some people would like, I think. The other day, I was putting a rain collection barrel system on the top of Union Pizza, and my friend Josh and I were up there, and I was getting done, and I was strapping it down to the top of the roof, and he said, "What are you putting that strap on there for?" I said, "Well, we've got to be ready for whatever kind of weather they throw at us." And he looked at me and he said, "You know, there was a tornado here once." And I said, "Yeah, Josh, that was 1919. He looked at me and he said, "Were you even mayor then?" I said, "No, Josh, I wasn't. I was mayor of Frankfurt back then." But as we look at the challenges we face today, I think it's important. Chris is going to give us a history of the community and to acknowledge that we've faced challenges in the past as well. And so when that cyclone rolled through town in 1919, devastating half the town, killing 50 people and causing millions and millions and millions of dollars in damage. What did they do as a community? They rebuilt, they revisioned, and they rallied. And one thing that I always take comfort in and hope when I look back at the history of this community, the other thing they did that a lot of people don't know in that time is they planted trees. In the aftermath of that cyclone, they went out and they planted hundreds and hundreds, thousands of trees. Trees that today line our boulevards, fill our city parks. And I think about that and I think, you know, it takes a lot of faith, hope, and optimism in the future to plant trees in the face of such adversity. And that's what they did. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for being planters of hope for this community. So thanks, everyone. Welcome.
Up next, we've got Chris Schulke.
Well, you know greatness when the mayor, he pretty much stole what I was going to say. It's okay. Same thing. So, and I'll get to that in just a second. So several months ago, where is Lisa? Oh yeah, there's Lisa down there. So Lisa asked me about, to give a talk about the history of businesses in Fergus Falls for this event. So, it's 150 years worth of information. And then I asked her, okay, All right. Well, how much time do I have? Thinking, an hour or so. He said, oh, you have a few minutes. And I said to myself, that's impossible. How in the world can I talk about a community's business history in such a short length of time? But did I say that to Lisa? No. I said, yes, of course I will do that, because how do you say no to Lisa Workman? So here we are in the 150th anniversary of Fergus Falls, and I have about 5 minutes, so that's fine. I will use a very broad lens. So, let's really get broad. I want to start by acknowledging, and I hope we can all acknowledge, how lucky we are to live in this part of the world. Now, obviously in the last week or so, we may not think that with the storms that went through, but the fact is that we are very lucky to live here. We have all the natural resources in the world in this part of the world. Natural resources that, have not just provided us with materials to sustain life, but to thrive. I mean, Joe Whitford knew this when he was scouting for town site locations along the Otter Tail River, and when he came upon rapids on the river that he knew one day could be harnessed for water power, and there's a natural resource. The town's first major investor, George B. Wright, he knew this. He advertised Fergus Falls as the coming city, and he recruited investors to come here because he knew the river would provide power, industry, and growth. And as a surveyor, he also knew that Fergus Falls was in the heart of some of the finest farmland in Minnesota. And of course, for generations, that rich prairie soil has produced crops that literally feeds our local economy. I mean, what an exciting time those early years must have been in our community. Population was growing, there was endless opportunity, businesses was booming, and many of our grand historic buildings were built in those years. The future was bright until, boom, in a matter of minutes it was over. In a matter of minutes, one fateful Sunday afternoon, much of Fergus Falls was reduced to rubble. Now we say that now, and we can see some of the photos, but that cyclone, that tornado of June 22nd, 1919, damaged or destroyed 2/3 of our town. If you look closely at the photographs that W.T. Oxley took, 2/3 of our town and much of the infrastructure was gone, obliterated. 60 people killed, hundreds injured. It was a real body blow to the community. And the thing is, as Ben mentioned, Fergus Falls persevered, but we could have turned inside ourselves. We could have turned inward. And instead, the community pulled together, rolled up their sleeves, and rebuilt. If the coming city was the first real important slogan in our community's history, Mayor George Frankberg's post-cyclone, a bigger and better Fergus Falls, was the second slogan that defined our community. Fergus Falls, the people's resiliency, creativity, and hard work paid off. In fact, we're gathered in the 1921 Orpheum Theater that was part of that bigger and better Fergus Falls effort. So some 70 business people came together to invest in the Orpheum Theater. Could we get 70 people together now to invest, Andrew, in a project? Yes, he says we could. Good, I'm glad you said that. And so they made the Orpheum into the most complete theater in the Northwest. It could accommodate moving pictures, concerts, plays, and any road show that might come through town. In fact, on its opening night, in February 1921, the Orpheum featured a 6-reel movie, 6 reels, and a vaudeville show featuring the positive sensation of the century, which I'm hoping we can repeat that with one of our August panelists up here, maybe Lisa or Jane or Natalia. We'll recreate that, which was sawing a woman in half. So whenever I did this tour downtown and Rebecca was there, I always say, we're going to do that with Rebecca Peterson. Anyway, so here we are. celebrating Fergus Falls' 150th anniversary, and I just want to say happy birthday to us.
This is a great panel of community partners. So first off, let's talk to the audience and briefly tell the organization you represent and what are your top 2 or 3 incentives or objectives. Let's start off with Natalia.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So I'm Natalia Bowman. I'm the CEO at Greater Fergus Falls, and we are a nonprofit economic development organization. Our mission is to support and grow the area's business community. And of the many priorities that we have, I would say the top 2 are going to be business retention and expansion to ensure that our existing businesses can sustain and grow, and business development and attraction. So fostering entrepreneurship and attracting new businesses to our community.
And I'm Lisa Workman. I'm the president of the Fergus Falls Area Chamber of Commerce, where I've been in that role for the last 15 years. The Chamber of Commerce is a 501c6 membership-based trade association. Our role is to serve as the lead advocate and resource for our memberships and to create partnerships that foster a healthy business community. We recently went through a strategic planning process, and some of our top priorities that we're currently working towards are to promote local economic growth, to develop and grow business-to-business relationships, as well as one of the things that makes us a little more unique is that we are the lead advocate for our businesses, where we support them both at the state, local, and federal level as a collective body. And one of the reasons that we put together or worked with our partners on Fergus Falls Refresh is that we have seen the need, especially over the last 2 years, to inspire community vitality. And this is one of the fruits of our labor. So thank you for being a part of that.
I'm sitting in the wrong chair.
That's right, I'm supposed to be next.
We did have a life figured out. I threw a curveball.
Is this our dress rehearsal?
No, good afternoon. I'm Andrew Bremsa. I'm the city administrator for the city of Fergus Falls. And real quickly, I want to point out the council members that we have in the audience. We met the mayor briefly, and I'm going to say these lights are extremely bright, so you're going to have to help me out. But we have Caroline Gustafson, Krista Hagberg, Scott Kwame, and if there's another one behind those rows, I can't see them. But thank you for everything you do. The primary function of the city of Fergus Falls, or any city, is to provide public safety services through fire and police services and utilities, clean water, sewer. Those are the things that we're really good at, and we don't talk about enough. Which is fine, we like to talk about the fun stuff, and we'll do that today. But real quickly, I wanted to read what our vision statement is, because I think it speaks a lot to the conversations we're having today in these partnerships. Our vision is to be a model community in Greater Minnesota by encouraging individual involvement in community partnerships, preserving and expanding our naturally beautiful environment, encouraging the growth of new and existing businesses and industry, and planning for continued growth and development, which is right in line with all of our partners and colleagues here on the stage today. The top initiatives in the city are streets. No, kidding aside, streets are obviously at the top of our list all the time, and we know there's ongoing and continuous needs. We're focused on the revitalization of the downtown riverfront area, and that project continues on. And the council's really been focused on providing recreational and quality of life opportunities for the community, and we're going to continue to do that.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jean Bowman, Executive Director of Visit Fergus Falls, and this summer is my 19th year in that position. I'm a staff of 1, and I report to our board of directors. There are about 15 people, and I thank those of you who are in the audience today. So Visit Fergus Falls is all about promoting our destination for travel. How many of you are going to take a vacation this summer? Raise your hands. All right, what are some of the things you guys like to do do on vacation?
I love to go RVing.
Shopping.
Shopping?
I like to eat and try new restaurants.
All right.
Voting.
So what I'm hearing is they all like to spend money, right? Don't we all spend money on vacation? So that's our job, is to entice and invite people from other communities to come to Fergus Falls, enjoy our natural beauty, stay in our hotels, eat in our restaurants, go to the races, lots and lots of things that we all love as residents. So we're here to be that tourism promoter and get people to be resident or visitors in our community. So that's what we're all about. And we work closely with all these partners, because if we didn't have a healthy business community and a vibrant downtown, it would make our job very hard. So that's us.
I'm left. I'm Nick Leonard, I'm with Otter County. I'm the deputy administrator, and specifically the team that I work most closely with is called Economic Growth and Community Investment. And I should, like good administrators, I should acknowledge that we probably have some commissioners here as well. It's always our job to take responsibility when things go poorly and give them credit when things go well. So Commissioner Mortensen is here. I think Commissioner Rognus, if he's not here, he is the commissioner from Fergus Falls. But in terms of economic growth and community investment, specifically, and we have some of my valued team members here, so I can already feel them rolling their eyes, because we have a four-legged stool. Some people would say that stools can't have four legs, but I'm going to stick with it. We have a four-legged stool that we have tried to beat this room really, really loud. And when we talk about what we do, and specifically the strategies that we focus on, the four strategies include infrastructure, right? So if we want to be an effective economy that grows, we have to have the infrastructure. So that means if we want people to come here, whether it's to visit or to work or to live, we have to have the stuff they want. We have to have housing, we have to have broadband, we have to have roads. Thank you for fixing roads. And that's a focus of ours too. But we have to provide the infrastructure first and foremost. Second of all, we have to have employee resources, right? In the private sector, they do all the heavy lifting, but if we can facilitate that, and sometimes it's getting out of the way, right? Sometimes it's like, that's silly, why do you have that policy, stop doing it, and if we can accommodate that, we certainly try to. So employee resources, what do we do to make sure that our private sector, our employers, and our employees can continue to thrive? The third leg of that stool is on the map strategies. We can do those first two things perfectly, but if nobody knows that we exist, right, it's tough we're not going to grow. And so thank you, Sean, today for wearing your Otter shirt today. We're working really closely with Otter Tail Lakes Country Association to make sure that Otter Tail County is on that list of destinations to visit, live, and work. And then last but not least, we talk about being a welcoming community, right? You can do everything else perfectly, but when they get here, or when the business moves here, and I won't use the language that I typically use at this part of my conversation, but if we're rude, if we're not welcoming, right, they're not going to stay. So those are kind of the four legs of the stool that when we talk about it from a county standpoint, economic growth, community investment, that we spend a lot of time talking about.
Sounds good. Now, how do your organizations work together to maximize outcomes and avoid duplication of efforts? And let's share a couple examples. Lisa, we'll start with you.
Sure. I think, there's as there are so many different organizations that have either been around for many years or recently been formed to serve different purposes, a lot of times folks in the community, whether it's businesses or residents, may see a little blur or overlap or unclear of those roles. And some people think, well, they're all doing the same thing. We are. We're all working towards the same goal. We're working in a different facet or different fashion to get there, but we are working together for the same goal. And that's for the success and improvement of Fergus Falls and Otter Tail County. So when there is that confusion or blur, I look at that as a good thing. That means we are working together. However, we are intentional about working together in a lot of different ways, but it's not always so visible or so public. And one of those ways is that we host a joint executive committee. Sounds fancy. What it is it's our organizations that get together, our chief volunteer, our board chairs and our top staff folks, get together on a quarterly basis and we share ideas. It's literally information sharing so that we know what each of us are working on and how we can support the other organization, or if it's something that we thought we should do and say Greater Fergus Falls is doing it, then the chamber says, okay, we'll support you, but we're not going to do the same thing. So that's one of those ways is our joint executive committees. One of the other ways that we are working together with other organizations, primarily the city, is that we are engaged and attend the city council meetings. And we can gather information that is being discussed at a council meeting or committee of the whole, and if it impacts our business community, we can share that information directly with them on the pieces that matter to them. And that's a two-way street as far as information goes. See that street? Okay. We can also share the opinions and the feedback of our businesses in aggregate, meaning all of their collective ideas and opinions back to the city council, back to city staff, so they can make educated and informed decisions with kind of that weight or the volume of input from a variety of businesses versus, 47 businesses calling the city administrator on the same issue. We can bring it together. And then one of the other things, it's kind of a, fluffy way of collaborating is that because we know what each organization is working on, as the chamber, we're kind of Google Fergus Falls. Our phone rings and questions come across, either our phones or website or social media, email, yes, even in the mail, like piece of paper mailed to us, random questions, but because we're connected to the other organizations, we're able to answer those questions in a way that saves the customer or the resident or the visitor some time. And so when we have visitors, say, coming to our community, we can, suggest things to do and places to go and really start a positive visitor experience for them.
Speaking of visitors, the thing that, my office is in the third floor of City Hall, so it's not very conducive to being that, having the welcome mat laid out. So I asked the chamber staff, they've got a great staff, they're more than one person, they are across the street from City Hall, and they serve the visitor once they get to Fergus Falls. So I encourage visitors to come here. The chamber staff is that front desk, what's a great restaurant to go to, or what are the hours of so-and-so, or what's going on this weekend. And then I produce a lot of the materials that they distribute, and one of them is our summer events calendar. They're on the counter outside, and I hope you would all grab one of these to find out what's going on in Fergus Falls. We produce a Fergus Falls visitor's guide, but we do that in partnership with Otter Tail County, because we don't need to all duplicate visitors guides. This big one is the county, and then this smaller one is Fergus Falls Visitor's Guide. And Nick's got a great staff person who produces all of this, and I work a little bit on the Fergus Falls section, and then we overprint this. So we're not all both selling ads, we're not both duplicating efforts for distribution, so that's another great way that we work together. I also serve on the Chamber Board, and I serve on the Otter Tail Lakes Country Board, because a tourism machine needs investment to make it run. So we look at Explore Minnesota Tourism, kind of this funnel, and they've got certainly more resources than the county. And then the county says, okay, come to Otter Tail County, and then Visit Fergus Falls says, okay, now that you're in Otter Tail County, come to Fergus Falls. So that's just another way that we work together to collaborate and not duplicate efforts. So that's an example I would offer.
And when visitors come to Fergus Falls, it's really important that we have businesses for them to patronize. So, Greater Fergus Falls works with entrepreneurs, business owners, and developers to navigate through that business development process. Oftentimes, they come directly to Greater Fergus Falls, but in many instances, the first point of contact is the chamber or the city or even the county. So in those cases, they'll send them over to us, and then we'll start the process. And one of the most recent examples of a successful public-private partnership, would be the $3 million redevelopment of the former Heedall's building, which incidentally broke ground yesterday. So this is incredibly timely and very exciting for our community. So initially, the developers approached us about redeveloping that building into a large-scale, multi-specialty dental clinic. But because it was a blighted commercial property and it actually lacked on-site city utilities, the cost to redevelop that was significantly higher. So we worked with the county and the city to qualify them and bring in a temporary property tax abatement to offset the costs of modernizing those utilities. This is really impactful because it significantly will increase our tax base. It brings in higher paying jobs, retains and creates them, and it also expands access to critical medical and dental services here in the community, not just for our residents, but again, it's attracting other visitors to come into the community. And what do they do when they're here? They're spending money in our restaurants and in our businesses, further supporting that. So in that cycle of development, once they're open and ready for business, we'll refer them back to the chamber. The chamber will do ribbon cuttings and connect them to even more resources and networking, and that opens the door to Visit Fergus Falls to have an entirely new tourist demographic to market to.
People who need dental care. That might not be one of the niches.
So I think it's really important to use that as a recent example, I think, just to show you how every organization represented here today directly impacts those kinds of developments in our community.
To run with that example a little bit further, Natalia mentioned that the city and the county participated in a tax abatement, and the city council really had the vision and the foresight to say that's a prime corner, that Hedall's building at the intersection of Tower Road and Lincoln Avenue in our community. And we need to invest in that property and in this business to ensure that this gateway to our community is looking attractive. And we did a 9-year tax abatement, and essentially what that does is it allows the developer or the owner of the property to use the taxes that they pay in to offset costs of their project. So they pay the taxes to Otter Tail County, they're paid back to the developer, it offsets the cost. And in this particular example, I think it's a very good use of tax incentives because they had the additional cost and burden of having to hook up to city utilities already being within the middle of the city. That's a very rare instance within the city of Fergus Falls. So very good example. We're happy to be a part of that, and it just shows how all of the different pieces are connected. I don't want to get too repetitive, but we work very closely with Greater Fergus Falls on any necessary approvals of plats, rezonings, building permits for businesses, anything like that that's necessary. Lisa hit it head on. I can call Lisa and say, hey, pull your people, pull your members, and she, without hesitation, will have a survey out by the end of the day. And it allows us good feedback and guidance as our policymakers are weighing different issues. Jean mentioned that we threw her in the least desirable office in City Hall. And
I get my steps in every day.
it's for her own good. But we do serve as a fiscal host for Visit Fergus Falls. You know, Jean mentioned she's a staff of one, and we have the ability and the skills to do that. So we're happy to partner. And we work alongside Otter Tail County on a daily basis, all of the departments, and we have a very strong relationship with them. So happy to collaborate with all the folks here on the stage.
You know, as it relates to the example that Natalia provided, I think what I would add is, and I think the question is how do we collaborate and coordinate? We have 22 cities, 62 townships, and cover 2,500 miles. What is right for Fergus Falls is not necessarily right for Fergus, or for Underwood, or for Dalton, or for Perham, or for Pelican Rapids, or for Elizabeth, right? I'm not going to say all 22. But what I will stress is our job is to be complementary and additive. I'm looking at our team, that's something else we say a lot. We don't as a county say, hey, Fergus Falls, this is what you should be interested in. We're happy to complement, we're happy to be additive. And the way in which we do that here looks very different in how we do that in other communities. But this was an example where the city and the business came and said, hey, this is really important to us. Will you work with us on this? And so we go through our process with our community development agency, and I think it works well. And generally speaking, it works well because cities take the lead and identify what their priorities are.
Sounds good. So what is on the horizon for Fergus Falls? What are the trends and what do you use for metrics to measure growth? We'll start with Andrew.
Yeah, thank you. Fergus Falls has seen steady growth over the last several years, and I'm going to use a couple of real numbers and examples, and I'm going to reference the card just so I'm giving good, accurate data. But the metrics that we use at the city to measure some of these things are building permit numbers, of course, census data, which is relatively new and updated, and then the sales tax revenue numbers. I think that's a good indicator as to how growth in business is doing in Fergus Falls. Starting with building permit numbers, we show steady growth since the 1990s. In 1990, for reference, we had 256 building permits that were pulled. By 2018, the permit numbers started breaking 500. We had our highest permit years since the 90s. In 2021, despite costs being outrageous, as we all know, we had 579 building permits issued last year in 2021. So comparing that to the 90s, you see that the trend is certainly moving in the right direction. We showed a 7.5% increase in population in the last census, going from just over 13,000 to now over 14,000 for the first time, which I think is exciting and of note. And then sales tax numbers. We had the local option sales tax go in place in 2018, and as you recall, that is to fund the new library. From 2018 to 2019, we saw a 4.1% increase in collections. From 2019 to 2020, 5.4% increase. From 2020 to 2021, 8.5% increase. And for this year, we only have full data from January because it lags so much. We're 13% higher than we were last year. So year over year, that continues to move in the right direction. And that's really a good indicator that there's commerce and sales happening within Fergus Falls, and people are spending money and things are healthy. So we're happy to share that information. One of my colleagues on the stage here, I won't throw anybody under the bus, but one of them made a point yesterday when we were doing a little walkthrough of this that when you look at growth numbers and census numbers, that takes into account the fact that there are people that die in that period of time too. And in a community like Fergus Falls or a county like Ottertail County, we have a lot of elderly people. I think we all know that. And the death rate is higher. So to achieve 7.5% growth rate means we're growing more than that to make up for some of those deaths. And it's kind of funny to talk about, but it's true. And it shows that there are some healthy things happening within the community and within the county.
We know we're all, it's okay. We need young families be in our schools.
You get to be next. Oh, I'm next, okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so as Andrew, the metrics that Andrew cited really strongly correlate with the metrics that we've been tracking over the last 3 years. Specifically, compared to 2019, there has been just close to 200,000 square feet of commercial property that has been redeveloped. So think about those big box stores. They've been redeveloped. We have reduced the vacancy of our commercial and industrial sites by 51%. So in 2019 to now, over half of the sites available are now occupied. So I think that's pretty incredible. And that's not just downtown, it's throughout the entire community. And at present, just anecdotally, I think it's really important to note that we cannot fill the majority of the requests that we have coming in for commercial, especially warehouse storage space. So there is a growing demand for that speculative warehouse space. We know that there's still a few available properties out there, and that's okay. I think it's really important for the community to know that having an availability rate isn't necessarily a negative thing. Those properties are still producing a tax base, and it allows us the opportunity to get creative with adaptive reuse as the market is ready for us to accommodate that. So I think that's really important. Additionally, our entrepreneur initiative, we launched that in March of 2020, right when the pandemic was just ramping up. Through that, over the last 2 years, that program has directly resulted in the creation of 55 new businesses which has then subsequently created 145 new jobs here in the community. So the resurgence of local investment in new development, redevelopment, and just general business startup is really strong, and I think that can be attributed to the really strong collaborative partnerships that we've been developing here. So.
Yeah, and I think to pivot off of that or bounce off of that, Natalia, with the work that Greater Fergus Falls does, especially through their entrepreneur initiative, the chamber, we give out the traditional first dollar of profit. We give that out to new businesses that are in the city of Fergus Falls, just as a way to say thank you to them and show off a little story about them on social media. Whether they're a chamber member or not, we want to welcome them to our community. And we have not been busier than we have in the last couple years. We're booked out weeks. You wouldn't think that, but when you look at our calendar, it's like we're booked way out. We could give out at least one a week for the next couple years and probably still have some that we haven't gotten to yet because we don't even know about all of the new businesses that are starting up. And with that, then we would celebrate anniversaries, with ambassador visits and whatnot too. So, the success that brings also comes to our community, and we've been able to watch some of these businesses that have gone through the entrepreneurship program grow from a cottage home-based business to opening up a new site to, expanding into their next location. So that's really cool to see. We get to see a lot of that behind the scenes stuff when somebody starts out with a small at-home business and pretty soon they're hiring employees and watching them grow. And that happens through the support of our community too. In addition to giving out a lot of first dollars, the chamber itself has seen consistent membership growth over the last 10 years, even throughout however long we've been in a pandemic, whatever, we've had some business challenges over the last couple of years. We've had new members joining the chamber just by showing up, applying online, knocking on the door, literally without us going out and making sales calls on that. So we have seen consistent membership growth for the chamber over the last 10 years. And that says a lot about our community too, because they want to be part of our business community. And so they're looking to join the chamber. And as we look at the horizon and trends, as David mentioned, and things that are coming or what's coming out new, the chamber's looking to be rolling out a new workforce strategy. It'll be a leadership program that we'll be rolling out, and it'll help connect people in the community. Maybe they're new to the community, maybe they've just started a job at a business here, or they relocated here, as a result of the Rural Rebound Initiative, where they've landed here in Otter Tail County. We're going to connect them to the community through our leadership program, which helps them develop roots in our community, as well as help them with leadership skills and do a little training too. So that's kind of one of these creative workforce solutions that we're doing to help our businesses who want to grow continue to grow by retaining the people that we have all, and when I say all of us have worked so hard to bring people here to be able to say that Fergus Falls and Otter Tail County is where they call home, instead of just the place that they go on vacation.
So travelers are tough to measure. We don't have any magic window that says, oh, there's a visitor, there's a visitor, there's a visitor. So what we use is the impact of the lodging tax. And actually that's how we're funded. When you're all visiting a hotel, there's that extra line for area lodging tax or city lodging tax. The city collects that, and that's what funds our activities. In fact, by state law, that money has to be reinvested in promoting our destination for tourism. So we look at that lodging tax trend. That is an actual number. And in fact, I'm happy to say that, post-COVID, everybody wanted to leave their twin cities, their big, heavily populated areas, and come to God's country, as I like to say. Thanks for making sure we all have internet access. But they have, so travel has been up, and first quarter of 2022 is the highest it's been since 2015. So people are traveling. The other things that we measure are related to our social media, increase in Facebook and Instagram particularly. We do a lot of website advertising, so I track who's seeing our ad, where are they from, how long are they staying online. I did a little session for our board a couple of months ago, and and people were nodding. I don't know, Sean, if you could, did everybody say, yeah? Good, I'm glad Jean's doing that and I don't have to do that. So that's another thing that we measure. As far as what's on the horizon or what we're looking forward to, I would say that certainly the Bigwood Event Center, there's another partnership that is reopened. That's a city event facility, but when people travel to an event at the Bigwood, of course, they're visitors. So we work in partnership with their general manager. His name's Justin Templeton. He's pretty new to Fergus Falls, but he's doing a dynamite job, and the facility is up and running. So that is great. In fact, it's hosting the all-school reunion, I think, in a couple of weeks. The community ice arena now has summer ice, and of course, people like to ice skate all summer long. I'm not one of them, but whether it's a goalie clinic or kids tournaments, certainly people come from other communities and spend their money here when they come here to do that. So those are some things that are on the horizon, as well as mountain bike trails and hiking trails and all those things that make it also a good place to live. So.
And Jean teed up a beautiful transition. I'll talk a little bit about on the horizon. One of the things that the county's been working on for, when you look at why people move to a particular place, a job, everyone would assume, hey, job's got to be pretty high, right? It's not even in the top 10 anymore. They're looking for outdoor recreation, natural resources, right? Safety, schools. A job is after 10. They're bringing, a lot of them are bringing jobs with us. So we've been working on a park and trail plan for quite some time at a county-wide level. And specifically, when you look at this part of the region, there's a beautiful trail that starts in Fergus Falls and goes south. There's a beautiful trail that starts at the north end of Otter Tail County and goes north, called the Heartland. And then there's this 2,500 square mile void. Well, I mean, there's other trails, but there is no connection between those two. And so, for almost the past decade, the county's been working on the first segment, the first connection of that, from basically from Pelican Rapids to Perham via Maplewood State Park. But and specifically, I want to thank Representative Rasmussen, who's been incredibly helpful in getting that across the finish line. And so, if I can tell you how helpful he's been and his predecessor at kind of getting this done. But the next phase, when you look at kind of the priority, it's getting Fergus Falls connected to Maplewood State Park. So getting Heartland connected to Maplewood State Park, so eventually you can continue on, or to Maplewood, so you can eventually continue on up to the Heartland. And so by that point, I'll probably, maybe I might have an electric bike and will actually be able to use it. But that's something on the horizon that I'm very excited about.
So it's good to hear that we are growing, but what are some of the challenges that the community is currently facing, and what are you working on to address these challenges? We'll start off with Jean.
So we don't like to talk about what's not going well, right? That's not in our nature. But in the hospitality industry, one of the challenges is a workforce shortage, and that impacts the hospitality industry. But these guys are working to solve it, so I'm not going to steal their thunder. What I'm going to ask you to do, though, when you are a guest in a restaurant or a hotel or a retail environment, please be patient and be courteous, because they probably have fewer employees than they wish they had. I know there have been restaurants sometimes that have to close off a whole section because they know that it would be better to serve this 2/3 of our restaurant well than to open up the whole restaurant for more people and leave people waiting and having a poor experience. So I'd ask you to please be patient with that. The other thing is just to realize that the health of our retail and restaurant industry is due in part to the visitor audience. You know, some residents, and I'll say call it resident sentiment, really don't want visitors in town. Who are those strangers and what are they doing here? And people on the bike trail are going to make my property value go down. So that bad attitude rubs off, and the public, visiting public, they can sense that. So let's be sure that we're all welcoming communities. Is that one of the legs of your stool? Yes. And the other is that as residents, you know, we love having XYZ retailer open. Well, it's quite likely that that business counts on residents and visitors in order to survive. So we need visitors in our community in order to successfully thrive in a business community.
So at over 55%, Minnesota has the best 5-year business survival rate in the entire United States. I think that is really incredible, and we're really excited to be part of that network to foster that supportive ecosystem for small businesses. But like any other community, we're still at risk for business closure. So for us, it's really important that we continue to provide and expand on the technical assistance to support successful startups, to ensure that long-term viability for existing businesses, and to make sure that they're well-positioned for growth. So we are going to continue building up those programs, building our expansive network of resources to increase access to capital and resources as those businesses need it. Workforce, housing, childcare, those are all really critical components to economic success. But we know that there are other organizations here on the stage today and throughout our community that are dedicated to those issues. So we will just continue to play that very supportive role and complementing their efforts as they need to.
And from a challenge standpoint, I think we try to be very data-driven. I'll never forget, I was very new with Ottertail County, and I got invited to this meeting in Battle Lake to talk about childcare. It's about 6 years ago, right? So I had little kids. And I got back and I was jazzed, talking all about this childcare crisis, and I remember my wife looked at me and she's like, "You needed a 2-hour meeting to tell you that there was a childcare crisis?" And I did. You might want to shut her mic off. But the reality is we try to be data-driven. We try to look at what are the problems that are addressing us and our community right now. And it is childcare, it is broadband, it is housing, right? But if I can put a positive spin on this, I'd much rather be here facing these challenges than other places because we have wonderful broadband providers in Park Region and in Arvin locally that are working every day to make that, to try to address that. We have really thoughtful leaders that are working on childcare, representatives who get it, that are at the legislature trying to assist with those things. So yes, there are challenges in terms of growth, but I've never been more optimistic than I am today in our ability to address those challenges together.
Yeah, to play off of that a little bit, of course, there's many challenges, and two that I'm going to focus on are housing and childcare, and just kind of give a good overview of that, but specifically things we're doing in Fergus Falls to try to overcome those. Housing, the biggest barrier to housing in Fergus Falls is the cost of infrastructure. We don't have any infrastructure in the ground, empty lots ready to be dug and built on. And the cost of infrastructure is such a burden, and it's so expensive for developers to start up a development project and be profitable, make money. I mean, it's such an upfront cost that there's challenges. And recently we worked with a local developer on Park Street. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the dirt moving over there to cover the cost of infrastructure for that development of 18 twin homes and 10 row homes, I believe, with tax increment financing. We've never used that as a tool to cover the cost of infrastructure and housing before. And it's really an effective way. It's again putting the taxes that these new construction projects generate back to work within that project. And the argument being the tax base wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the construction taking place. And I think we're going to have to continue to be creative with incentives like tax increment financing to encourage development because infrastructure is so expensive. And we see the demand for housing in Fergus Falls and in Ottertail County. As soon as properties are made available, they're scooped up, they're built on, what have you. So those are some of the things we're doing to address the infrastructure burden. Childcare. Clara Beck, our community development manager here right in the front, recently applied to have Fergus Falls named as part of a cohort for First Children's Finance. And what they're going to do, they're going to work directly with Clara and other folks in Fergus Falls to identify solutions that are oriented for Fergus Falls, for rural communities, getting creative and flexible. Given the market here in Fergus Falls is there's unique challenges in rural Minnesota compared to other areas that have creative models or figure out models that may work for them. So we're actively going to be starting that process here and hope that we can engage many different stakeholders and partners, definitely in the private sector as well as some of the people on stage to resolve that issue and get more people back into the workforce to help some of these challenges we talked about. Lisa, are you doing good?
That was my example of public works. Having water go out and in at the same time. Thinking about a new like side hustle or something. Sorry about that. Yeah, that childcare was that really hit me.
He's very passionate about that.
No, when we talk about challenges, some of the things that I think we've all of us have worked on in the last couple of years has been some of the barriers that happened throughout COVID and how they impacted our business community. And that's one of the things that the chamber worked on behind the scenes was lobbying and talking with our legislators like Representative Rasmussen on things that were going to negatively impact those businesses and their ability to grow, such as having their PPP funds taxed. We worked hard on that and got that to be not taxed, so thank you for that, and thank you to the state legislature. And then more recently, the unemployment insurance, the replenishment of unemployment insurance, that was going to be a huge impact to many of our businesses. And when I say impact, I'm not talking just a couple $1,000s, I'm talking of tens of thousands of dollars. And those are barriers that the general public, we just don't see necessarily, but we're working on those things because those are funds, those are dollars that would inhibit a business from growing. They want to grow, they're able to grow, they're busy, but they need people. And again, it takes all of us as organizations working together to bring people here and then keep them here. And specifically, one of the things the Chamber's working on for that is that we actually do some personal tours for businesses as they're recruiting and not try to sell them on the community, excuse me, as a place to start their business. Greater Fergus Falls is going to give them a great community tour, show them available properties and how amazing our community is. But when our businesses are growing and they need to recruit staff, they're recruiting managers and engineers and different people. We're trying to bring them here from somewhere else. Like Nick said, it's not just the job that they're coming for, it's everything. And so as a chamber, our job is to sell them on the community. Get them excited about coming here and making their life here. And that's the end of the words that I have available. Now this, please tell my husband that I ran out of words, okay?
How can the public, both residents and members of businesses, help move the community forward? And Andrew will start with you.
Yeah, from a city perspective, one of the biggest needs we have is election judges. We would really like to recruit election judges and reliable people in the room here. Please reach out. I know the county has the same need, so maybe a plug for both of us. A lot of our election judges are aging with COVID and the years following. They've decided they need to move on. We really have an urgent need. So connect with the city if you have an interest in that. The city has boards and commissions and various committees with openings pretty much at any given time. So if folks are interested in diving in on a topic or allowing themselves to study something with the intent of giving recommendations for policy, check out those opportunities and let us know if you're interested. I think that's a good way to influence some of the things the city is doing. Of course, running for local office, being involved, attending public meetings, those are things that you can do to influence change, to be involved, to be knowledgeable. And then real quickly, I want to touch on the fact that the city has just started a strategic planning effort. And really, we're doing that so we ensure that the work that we're doing as a city is in line with the work that the community desires, and we're doing things in a smart, efficient, and strategic way. And some of you in the room have been asked to serve on committees specific to that effort, and I would encourage you if you've been asked to take part in that. And for everybody else, there's going to be multiple opportunities for the general public to be involved in that coming up this summer, and I would encourage you to keep an eye out for that. That strategic planning effort is going to inform the work of the city council going forward. So it's very important to us that we do that right, and we do that with the will of the constituents and the residents of Fergus Falls in mind. And that includes the business community and folks in the room here as well.
just have a couple things I'd ask the public's help with related to travel and tourism. And one is to invite your family and your friends to Fergus Falls. Nick talked about being data-driven, and we did some research with the University of Minnesota Tourism Center a few years ago, and that's right up there as one of the top reasons that people come to Fergus Falls and to Otter Tail County. And you know, all of you who raised your hand that you might be taking vacation this summer, probably several of you are visiting friends and family. You may be sleeping in your nephew's twin bed, but you could also be staying in a lovely hotel. Go to the country, you know, invite your family, put them up at the Country Inn and Suites, or make them pay their own way, and swim in a Minnesota-shaped pool. And so anyway, please be an advocate for having visitors in our area. The other thing is just a tip about you as a person who uses other hotels, not necessarily in Fergus Falls, and that is to book your lodging directly. I think we all get used to using Expedia and TripAdvisor, and those places are great for sort of comparing the amenities or the pricing or availability that you're looking for, but a front desk person is always going to be able to match whatever's online, but they also online on their own website. So you would go to, you know, Country Inn and Suites. I'm using them as an example because Sierra's here. Thanks, Sierra. She works at the front desk. So they have, you know, they have more control over your room. So if your plans change and you need to cancel your room or make a change, or you're going to see something on your credit card that you don't like, if you've booked through that third party, you're not going to get very good satisfaction or customer service. So please use those places for your research, but then book directly with the hotel that you would select. So that's just a little tip on how to be a good consumer of overnight travel.
And of course, I think when people travel, you know, they want to be entertained, they want to have fun, you know, places to go and things to do. Be kind of that tourist in your own town. You know, explore some of the new shops. Again, downtown, we've got, you know, First Late till 8 is tonight. So explore your downtown, but make a point of it. Be intentional about shopping locally, doing business for your own business locally. Spend every dollar that you can right here in Otter Tail County, because it does all come back to us. And the other thing about that is, as far as, you know, what we can do to be involved, you know, being a part of the chamber, coming to things like this. You guys you're hitting it right out of the park here. You are involved, you're getting in the know, you're getting the facts, not just the stuff you might see online somewhere from an unknown source. But again, stay connected and, you know, get to know your neighbors. And again, if you're visiting, traveling, you're looking for things to do, like I said, even in your own hometown, contact the chamber. You know, we're happy to make recommendations. Maybe you're looking for a specific product or service and you just don't know where to find it because you never had to buy it before or had to fix it before. Get in touch with us, we're happy to help out with that.
So from an economic perspective, if you want to contribute to the growth and viability of our community, it's really important that you, number one, speak positively about the community that you live in, work in. You know, it is really important to share our amenities, the opportunities, our successes. It's also important to share about the challenges. But more important than the challenges, I think it's important to articulate the communal response and willingness to come to resolutions to solve those challenges. Every community has challenges, but it's the action and the response, I think, that where we stand out. And, you know, we know that we need human capital, workforce. We know, you know, we hear in the community that you want more industry. Believe it or not, those people that are wanting to come here and work here, people that want to come start businesses or relocate their businesses here, they're out in the community, they're talking to you on the streets, they're visiting our business owners. You may have talked to them at the Viking Cafe and you didn't even know it. If they hear negative things about the community, chances are that's not going to bode well for in their decision process. So I think it's really important to just keep that in mind. And 2, Google reviews. This is something that's free. It takes you a few minutes and it is incredibly effective for that business. You leave a 5-star rating or whatever star that you think is, you know, 3, 4, 5, all really good, but also 5 stars. That's the best. But not just the star rating, but leave a comment, leave that feedback for them, because that's going to do wonders for their credibility. So, that's what.
And I'll just bookend this because Andrew started with election judges. I'm going to end it with election judges. And as much as I like to have data, let me just describe it this way. We need this many election judges. We have this many right now. So I don't know what those numbers are exactly, but I know that if there's one thing that I hope you take away from today, besides Lisa's spurting water, I hope it's how important it is that we get election judges in it, because it really is right now, not just unique here, but across the state. It's especially in outstate places, it's a real crisis. And as we lead up to November, it's going to be critically important. So if you can't do it, sign somebody you don't like out to do it.
Did it last year for the first time?
Now, how can people stay informed about your organization and what you're working on? And we'll start with you.
I picked the right seat, I guess, after that. One of the ways you can be involved and stay in the know about what the city's doing is to attend our meetings. We have 4 public council meetings a month. And if you're not able to come in person, we stream them live on YouTube. I encourage you to subscribe to that and get notified when we're live and follow along. The other thing we're really trying to get people to do is to sign up for our agendas and our packets. The council packets that we send out are about 100 pages thick or more. And, it's all the information. It talks about the conversations, the decisions that are before the city council. It talks about our professional staff's recommendations and why we're doing things. A lot of times, people rely on the media for their story, and that's great. You do a good job, providing that service, but it doesn't always get to the nitty-gritty about why this decision had to be made or why this funding source would only apply to this certain thing. Not every dollar that comes through the city can be spent on streets, as much as we wish that were the case. And so really getting into the nitty-gritty and understanding why the council's making the decisions they do. They make very good decisions. They're always looking out for the best interest of the community. And I think if folks were able to be more engaged, they would also understand what goes into those decisions. And then finally, don't be afraid to reach out to city staff, myself or any others. We pride ourselves on being approachable. If that's not your experience, I hope you let me know and that will be addressed. But we're here to serve the public, and we're here to help folks out, and our staff does a really good job of that. And council members, the same thing. They're here to connect you with the right people at City Hall. They'll make sure your issues are addressed, and we do what we can to resolve those things.
I would just echo Andrew's comments about getting involved and attending those meetings. In addition to the 4 city council meetings, there's also commission meetings, and there's port authority meetings, and those are all public. And again, it really helps enhance the context to what you're hearing. So find a seat right next to me. I'll be there welcoming you in. As for Greater Fergus Falls, we're incredibly active on social media, so if you want to stay in the know, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn at Greater FFMN. Our website is greaterfergusfalls.com. We've got a lot of information on there as well. Attend our events. And if you ever have questions about something happening, or you have ideas, constructive feedback, or criticism, call, email. We're very available and willing to have those discussions with you.
Yeah, I think following each of our organizations that are here, especially on social media, is a good way to stay informed. In the Chamber, we offer a business buzz. It's a weekly email that'll keep you up to speed on different things that are going on in the community. You can sign up for that whether you're a Chamber member or not. And then, of course, I have to give a little selfish. Okay, we'll start with the selfish plug first. Join the Chamber. Be a part of the Chamber. You don't have to attend every event to get something out of it. But let us know if you're looking to be connected. We'll connect you with people, whether it's on an ambassador visit or going to a ribbon cutting like we're going to be doing at the Speece Riverfront Park on June 30th. Join the Chamber. We'll get you connected if that's what you would like as our further connections. And of course, again, connect with your local media. Layton Broadcasting, the Daily Journal, Park Region, streaming TV, available through there. I hear a lot of times you're like, well, I didn't know about that, or I didn't hear about that. Well, did you read the paper? Well, I don't get the paper. I don't listen to the local radio. Well, what do you want? Somebody to show up at your door and say, here, read this? So anyhow, the business buzz is kind of like that.
Incredible. Well, and I would just follow up on Lisa's comment about the local news. You know the difference between news and I was trained as a journalist, so I get really, my hairs on my neck go up when people say that something's not credible, because somebody who's a journalist and works for one of those organizations you mentioned, it's part of their ethical upbringing, the fabric of who they are, to be honest and provide information on both sides. So know the difference between that kind of reporting and use those sources for information, rather than just somebody named Beth on Facebook who says something doesn't make it so. So, we're all smart people, so whatever you are consuming online, just use your best judgment and go to those news sources. But again, just follow us on social media. Again, because Visit Fergus Falls is trying to get people from other communities to visit, you're probably not going to see or hear much about us in Fergus Falls, although I do try to post every day, and so if you're on social media, you'll see that. But really, it's intended for those folks in Des Moines and Minneapolis and Sioux Falls and Winnipeg, and we want them to get out of the city and come to Fergus Falls.
Yeah, I would say all the same things that they talked about. A couple other things that I would encourage people from a county perspective. We have a really great Notify Me feature on our website. So if there's a project or a topic that you're interested in, you can sign up for this Notify Me, and anytime there's content published related to that, it'll send you an email and say, hey, this project was updated. Our highway does a great job of notifying you where there are highway projects, so if you want to know what bridges are out, there's a project page that's updated daily. And then, in this season of storms, we have, and I've got to make sure I say, we have our Smart 911, sign up for that. And then if you do have a storm, we also have a Waste Wizard. Both apps you can get from so if you're like, hey, where can I dispose of this thing? That's available on the website as well. So just a couple other tools.
As we wrap up, what is a key takeaway you'd like the audience to remember about your organization? Jean, we'll start with you.
So I would just reiterate, everybody's worried about how their public dollars are going to be spent. So just as a reminder, we're funded by the lodging tax. So unless you're staying in one of our hotels, you aren't contributing to our budget. So
Just stay in the hotel.
Your improvements on your home or your business aren't going to help our budget. So it's not property tax funded. Again, that our reach is to a non-visitor, but that we need your help in inviting them into our community and being hospitable and providing excellent customer service, whether you're behind a counter on the front line or just passing people on the street. Please put on a smile and say we're happy to have you in our community.
So Food Greater Fergus Falls, just think of us as an intermediary. So if you don't know where to start with starting a business or developing or expanding or anything business related, come to us and ask. And if we don't have the answer or we can't provide that support, we know someone who does have the answer and can support you, and we will get you connected. So give us a call.
And from the Chamber's perspective, just remember, we're an advocate for local businesses. We've been in Fergus Falls serving the business community for 135 years. So just 15 years after the city was formed, businesses got together and said collectively we can get more done than by doing it by ourselves, and that's what the Chamber does. We've survived, a cyclone, we've survived a couple world wars, the COVID, and water being sprayed on and we represent and promote our members. That's who we work for. We're a membership-based organization. We're not funded through tax dollars either of any sort. But the entire community benefits from the work that we do. Whether we're promoting the community as come to Fergus Falls and, entertain your kids and do shopping and go to all the great activities that are here. In fact, speaking of shopping, there is some of that going on. It's late tonight, so don't forget that that's going on. And then if you're looking for an even bigger event, we hope you'll come to the Chamber's Shopping and Groove on July 14th downtown. If you've heard Tonic Sofa, you're going to make sure you're going to want to put this on the calendar. So
Or pick up your calendar out in the lobby.
yes, even better idea. And then highlight July 14th for the shopping and groove. And then the other thing I would say about the Chamber is that we're just so thankful that we have such a generous and supportive community.
We are here, the chamber is here, but I'm not the chamber, our members are the chamber, so.
I had one other tourism thought, and that is Nick and I both serve on the Governor's Tourism Council, and we heard several years ago about visitors. We've heard a lot about visitors and residents. And, a resident, an employee, an entrepreneur, they never start that business or take a job, well, I shouldn't say never, without first visiting. So tourism is really that first step, that first date to showing somebody how vibrant our community is, and then they might think about moving here with their family or taking a job or starting a business. So I just want to underscore the importance of those visitors to our area and our county.
I'm going to just pretend I heard the question differently. Here's what I would say to end. Yeah, what I would say to end is, I moved to Fergus Falls about 15 years ago. And I didn't have any real reason to move here. But what I'll say, and Ben Winchester from the University of Minnesota talks about this a lot, and at the risk of offending Chris, nobody's moving here to Fergus Falls or starting businesses here or investing in Fergus Falls because of a tornado in 1919 or because of what so-and-so did even 10 years ago. Sorry, Chris. They're not. They're moving here and investing here and making this their home. People like me, and I've subsequently brought my mother-in-law, my brother, sister-in-law, and 4 kids. I should get some type of discount. I bring that up because people are moving here now because of what it is. Like, I live here now because of what Fergus Falls is today, because of the people that are here, the businesses are here, and most importantly, because I get to be part of what it is going to be in the next 10, 15, 20, 100 years. And so I would just encourage you to remember that. People are moving here now, and it's happening. Whether you believe it or not, lots of people are moving to this region. They're bringing jobs, they're bringing kids, not all right in Fergus Falls, but around this area. And so we really have to embrace this being a welcoming community and recognize that we are a destination for families and for businesses.
Well, and they can take a job. They might work for a company that's in California or Omaha. It doesn't have to be a business here in Fergus Falls. And that, I know the hospital sees that a lot when they hire doctors and nurses. They might come to our area for that job, and the spouse is leaving a job in another community or still working remotely. We all learned to work telework really well during COVID, didn't we?
Exactly. The takeaway I want all of you to have about the city, and Nick was a great answer, he probably should have done the last, got us all inspired. We're here to serve the public, each and every one of you, that's the reason why we exist, even Chris Schulte. I'd like to see any of that, but even Chris Schulte has a voice in Fergus Falls and is key to the decision making. And really, it's so vital that folks are involved. And we count on citizen input and feedback to make good decisions that are reflective of the community and of our community's values. And I know our council members value when folks reach out to them, give them their feedback, let them know where they stand on the position, and that's so encouraging. I can't overstate that enough, that it takes all of you to make good government. Government doesn't have to be stale, and I don't think it is in Fergus Falls, and that's why I love local government and county government, because we're in the same room, we're interacting with our neighbors and our colleagues on a daily basis. And you guys all have the opportunity and the ability to influence change within the community. And government can be interactive, innovative, and proactive, and that starts with all of you. And we're all open ears and ready to go along this journey with you. And to close today, I'm gonna read, because I don't want to screw this up. Not only get involved, but join me and everybody else in the room on June 30th from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Speece Riverfront Park for the grand opening and the 150th birthday party for the city of Fergus Falls. Which will have free ice cream for the first 500 people. Thank you to Uncle Eddie's, so make sure you're there early. Lisa will be doing ribbon cutting, will be doing remarks. Motu, which if you think of February laying poolside in Florida, that's what they're gonna, provide that type of vibe for us. Fun, food trucks, beer trucks, what am I missing? It sounds like, that's compelling enough. Join us that evening.
Ice cream.
Come get the free ice cream, check out that new facility, it's beautiful, you guys will all be impressed, and look forward to celebrating the 150th birthday of the city, and look forward to many more successful years, and thank you for attending.
And up next, we've got the Chamber's Business Gives and Recognition with Annabelle Lee and Lisa Workman.
Well, thanks everyone, what a great panel. Let's give them another big round of applause. So Annabelle is the chamber chair this year, so she's my number one boss.
Number one.
All right, so we want to wrap up the day with celebrating our businesses through the Fergus Falls Business Gives. Now, this is a unique program where the chamber recognizes our members for the important and significant contributions they make to our community. Our recognition program began, in 2009. I'm gonna have you.
Yep. In 2009 with 11 recipients, and I am pleased to announce that today we will recognize 31 recipients for the 2022 Fergus Falls Business Gives Awards. They're displayed in the lobby, and we invite you to pick them up at the end of the program. As we announce your business, we ask that every employee stand to be recognized and remain standing. Please hold your applause until everyone has been announced.
So we have American by Wyndham, American Family Insurance, Annabelle and Associates, Aura Fabricators, BC Woodshop, Bell Bank, Calla Lily Designs, Country Inn and Suites by Radisson, and Creative Handmade Goods in the first little group.
Businesses are recognized for giving cash or in-kind contributions to charitable organizations. Recognition is based on percentage, so a smaller business who gives, say, $1,000 receives the same recognition as one who contributes $10,000 or more. Because of their generosity, we have a thriving arts community, including theater and art galleries featuring local and nationally renowned artists. Let's thank the Daily Journal, Design Intent Architects, Fergus Home and Hardware, FM Bank, Frontier Marine and Power Sports, Gate City Bank, Envision Eye Care, JK Sports and Outdoors.
And we accomplish so much in Fergus Falls due to the amazing volunteers for many of these companies. We applaud the businesses who allow their employees to plan Summerfest, serve as board members with numerous nonprofits, hoist the flags for the Veterans Walk of Flags, as well as helping at chamber events like Shop Move and Groove. And we'd like to thank Kevin Johansson, CFP, Lake Region Healthcare, Marco Technologies, Minnesota Motor Company, Nelson Auto Center, Olson Oil Company, and Otter Tail Power Company.
Thank you to those who encourage your staff to volunteer as members of our service clubs. Through their fundraising efforts, we've updated our public library, contributed to the elementary and high school classrooms, started construction on an inclusive playground at Dr. Allen Magnuson Park, and are planning a splash pad. Park Region, Penny Cakes, Rhodey Insurance Services, Security Insurance and Investments, Senior Perspective, Sign Guys, Vector Windows, Victor Lundin Company, and Wells Fargo.
Well, we are so fortunate to have these businesses in our communities, and we want to thank everyone who supports these businesses, who in turn strengthens our community and enhances our quality of life in Fergus Falls and Otter Tail County. They give back to our community in countless ways, but are modest at best in promoting their efforts. So let's show them our appreciation for their generosity with an enormous round of applause. And again, as a reminder, your plaques for Fergus Falls Business Gives recognition are in the lobby, and you can pick them up on your way out. And this concludes our first ever Fergus Falls Refresh. We'd like to thank all of our participants today, and we want to thank Michael Burgraff and the staff here at Center for the Arts for hosting us. Let's give them a big whoop whoop. And again, I'd like to invite you to spend the rest of your evening downtown for Fergus Falls Summer's first Late Till 8 and Downtown Block Party with live music. Dozens of retailers and restaurants are open late. Chris Schulke will be hosting a walking tour starting at 7 p.m. tonight. You can meet him and his entourage at the Central Dam. And again, join us for the Fergus Falls 150th birthday party on June 30th from 4 to 8 p.m. at the new Spieth Riverfront Park Pavilion. Thank you all for attending Fergus Falls Refresh. Stay connected, get involved, and have a fantastic evening.